Alright, so looking good. So right now, let's go ahead and save the data to our database, right? We are almost done. We are able to capture the data from the user, and right now once we capture, we pushed all the data to an object. That object name is student.dto. Right now we can simply push this object to our database, isn't it? And we are done. Our data will be stored in the database. So let's go ahead and do that. Basically right now is 12:40 p.m. so I have to go for my lunch once I complete this. So I have to complete it very carefully, because if I'll not complete it, I'll keep thinking about this particular issue why basically I'm not able to push this to my database. So I have to be a little careful right now. Okay, so everything should work in one shot. So basically I had couple of meeting and I could not able to concentrate that meeting. Do you know why? Because I thought I just made the things a little complicated. Basically, guys, I'll show you something. I will close all this file. Let me do Control S. Let me close all these files right now. I'll tell you something. So if you are going to look at in your API package, let me drag the server to a little down. In your API, let me collapse this. I have created a couple of objects, isn't it? One is student object, and this looks like this. It has 4 fields, and one is DTO object. It looks like this. It's pretty similar classes, isn't it? So this and this looks pretty similar. So might be you are thinking right now, Vilas, why you have created a couple of classes? We can create any one of the class and we could have used it. Yes, that is correct. Actually, I wanted to make you understand a pattern. That pattern is called, I want to actually use a mapper. Okay, I want to introduce a mapper. I am thinking not to use it right now. I will tell you about it maybe in the end of the video, because I don't want to make things complicated. But I want to tell you one thing, okay? Just try to understand. It's not, forget about the coding and everything. So guys, what happens in real time is we basically do not expose the database related object or the entity object or the domain object, which basically carries the DB information. We do not expose that object to the outer world. When I say outer world, what I basically mean by is that we do not expose that object to a REST web service or to a web page. Okay, right now obviously we are working with Spring MVC, so I actually do not wanted to expose my database object, which is basically carries my DB information. I do not expose that object directly to the web page. Let's say, what about a hacker will open this particular page, he'll do right click, and let's say he will open this up, he will see, he'll do inspect elements, he'll find my properties, and he can directly interact to my database if he wants. Imagine if you can take this particular URL and if you're going to put this URL in a web browser, and let's say if you'll go to Safari browser, if you are going to put this URL just right here, and then if you are going to do right click, if you're going to do let's say if you're going to see the page source of this, if you're going to inspect the element for this, if you open up the developer tool, and if you're going to see the backend code, you might find some information which I really don't want to share. Okay, why should I share some of my internal system information, which is basically carrying my DB information to a guy whom I don't know? Maybe a hacker can hack into my system. He can directly do some SQL injection, or he may do something so that he will directly hack into my database. So basically in real time, we never expose the object which basically talk to the database. In this case, here we have the student object, right? This student object we used, if you go to our DAO, here we are using the student object. See, the load students method is a DAO method, and here it is going to return me a list of student, and here this student object is having these columns: ID, name, mobile, and country, which is my column name in my database. So if I'll go to my database, where is my database? So if you remember, the ID, name, mobile, and country are my column name. So these are basically these are basically containing my DB information, and once I paste the record from the database, these records are getting stored with this object, with this particular variable. Actually, in real time, it's not a good practice to expose this object to the outer world. Okay, that's not a good practice. So basically, for database related stuff, when you want to pass any DB related information, we create a separate object just like this, and we call it a BO object, or what we call a business object, or some people say it VO object, some people say it domain object, some people say it entity object. Okay, whatever. And for simple data transfer purpose, we just create a DTO. DTO stands for data transfer object. So this and this looks exactly same. This imagine this is for entity purpose. It is going to hold the DB information, or my once I fetch the data from my table, it is going to contain that information. And this guy, I'm just using as a data transfer object. And as you know, data transfer object we only use inside of the controller. Imagine while I'm showing the art student page, whenever I'm showing this art student page, I'm creating a DTO object, and I'm sending this DTO object to my view, which is here. And now here, I'm basically trying to use this particular object to read and write the user information. So when my user is interacting with this particular form, whenever he is doing submit, basically I'm trying to bind this data with my DTO object. So if I'll go to my controller, whenever the submit happens, the flow will come here, and obviously inside here, see the student DTO I'm writing, so those data will be binded with this. Okay, so right now the binding information is available just right here. This is the work of the DTO. The DTO only works between the web layer and your controller. Okay, that's it. And if you talk about the entity object, it works inside your DAO layer. See, in the DAO, I'm not writing student DTO here. This is the plain student object, and this student object I'm only using for my entity. So maybe I just want to convey you that in real time, the DTO object and the entity object are two different objects, but I don't think it's the right time to explain you this thing. So I'm thinking to refactor my code a little, and I will introduce this concept in the end of the video. This is a very important concept. I just want to give you a little bit kind of overview. So don't worry about it, but yeah, I will try to introduce this concept again in the end of the course, in the end of this particular video. Okay, so for now, let me use only one class as a POJO class. Okay, forget about entity, DTO, all these things. Okay, one simple POJO. I'll use that POJO as a DTO. I will use that POJO as a entity. Okay, so let me delete this student DTO from here. So I will create a different DTO in the end of the video. Maybe in the end of the course, I'll be introducing about this particular concept. But right now, let me refactor this code. Instead of using student DTO here, I can use the simple student class. And here also I can say a student. So this is the class right now I'll be using, student class. I can see I can only have one student object. So I will use this student class both for data transfer purpose, as my DTO, and also as my entity. So I'm just writing student, and I can transfer this student object to my, with my model, I'll be transferring this student object to our student page, and obviously inside the our student page, this particular data is going to be available as a model attribute, which is going to be student. So if I'll be going here, I think here there should not be any problem. If I'll do Control-Shift-R, if I open this up, so I am using student as a model attribute, and obviously I'm using name, mobile, country. Where is that student? I have name, mobile, country, which is exactly matching as this property. Where is that? With this property, name, mobile, and country. Only make sure, let me minimize, only make sure in your form, let me drag it to here. Okay, so in your student class, whatever the property you have, name, mobile, and country, just make sure to match with the path, because this is the model attribute, that you are sending from the backend, and this particular model attribute is right now, if you'll go to your controller, this particular model attribute is right now this, and this is actually carrying a student data, which is basically referencing to this student object. So we'll be actually creating one Pojo and we'll be working with that. Okay, so I want to make it simple for you guys, so I don't want to make it complicated. So that's why I've deleted that particular class. So it's up to you. If you want to use that class, just use it, or if you don't want to use it, don't use. Okay, that's fine. Cool. So right now there should not be any error. So any other error I'm having? Okay, here also, while somebody is going to submit the form, when he is going to submit the form here, also I want to bind that particular object. I mean, I want to bind those data by fetching it from my URL, and I'm going to bind it with this guy, student. Okay, only one class I'm going to use, so that's why I'm just formatting the code. Okay, hopefully this makes sense, and do not worry if you don't understand what I basically told. Basically what I mean that you can basically right now, let me do Control S first. Okay, is there any other error? Let me do Command Shift O. Maybe something is there in the import. Command Shift O to remove the import. Right now there should not be any error. Okay, so basically what I did, I have just deleted that DTO class. I have only one particular class right now, and this class is basically I'm using in my data access layer also, and also this class I'm using as my DTO. Okay, so this is the only thing that I want to convey. I don't want to make things complicated. I want to make things simple. So that's why I have deleted that particular class. But it is very important to understand the concept that I'm telling you right now also. So what I'm thinking, in the end of the video, I'll be introducing to you a model mapper. I'll be telling you how a mapper works, how to work with a DTO object and a domain object in the same time. Okay, but okay, for now, a lot of technical thing, a lot of technical talk. I really don't want to talk something which doesn't make sense in a particular time, but yeah, you can understand that right now Abhilash wanted to do something, but yeah, he is reverting back the changes. He just want to use this class as the Pojo class, and this class will be used by the DAO layer, for an example here. Okay, and also this class will be used by the controller for a data transfer object, just like here. Okay, just like here, I'm using it for a data transfer object. I'm giving it as a model attribute, and the model attribute is basically carrying the data of the student, and it is giving it to the R student form as a model attribute. Okay, so this is what we call a DTO, or a data transfer object. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so that's it. I don't want to complicate things much. Right now, I have just refactored the code, and let's go ahead and save the data right now. When we do submit, we should save the data actually in the database. No fake thing. In real, we want to save the data. Let's go for that. Alright, so right now, let's go ahead and let's save the data. Okay, so what is happening just right here? Let me close all the files. Okay, and let me go back here. So now whenever I'll be entering the data just right here, whenever I'll do submit, so basically this is the URL where I am going, and basically I need to save this data, that what I'm getting in the parameter in the query as a query string or as a query parameter, isn't it? And also I'm able to capture the data as you can see in the console. So let's go ahead and let's store it. Okay, let's store it to the DB. So I'll go to the save student right now. So in my controller, I'll go to the /save students. Okay, whatever the URL you can see here, /save student. So here I need to capture this data. Already I'm doing that just right here. Now I need to basically save it. Okay, so where I need to write the saving related code, right here inside the controller. But that's not a good practice, right? Because we don't want to dump our DB related code just right here. Rather, we will go to our data access layer. just right here, and we can write some code just right here. Okay, we will separate our presentation layer code and our database layer code, or the data access layer code. We will separate it. Okay, so right here I can create a new method called save student. Okay, and if I want to save a student, I'll be obviously saving a student, so I'll be needing a student object. So student, and obviously this is not going to return me anything. I'll say void. I'll do control S. So right now I can see in the implementation class right now I'm getting an error because the student DAO is getting implemented by student DAO IMPL. Now I will hover over here and I'll say add the unimplemented method, and right here inside this method save student, I'm going to save the student. So I'm going to say here, okay, so I will be getting the student objects just right here, isn't it? How I'm going to get the student objects just right here? Because see, this is student DAO IMPL, right? So inside my controller here, so when somebody is going to do a submit, okay, see here, when somebody is going to fill in the data, and whenever he say submit here, whenever he clicks on submit, obviously it will go to the save student, right? So where is my save student? My save student is here. So I will get the data here. So I already captured the data here. So I'll just say, I'll just have a DAO call just right here. Okay. Do a DAO call. Okay. To save the students. Okay. So now what I will do, let me remove this command from here. So you can see I already have a student DAO object created just right here. So inside my save student method, what I am going to do, I will say student DAO. Where is that object? This object dot save student, and whatever the student I'm capturing. So you can see I'm capturing this student. Whenever he is hitting on submit button, I do have all his data. All his data is binded with this student. So I'll copy this object and I will just paste it just right here, and there you go. You don't have to do anything. Okay, and that's it. We are almost done. Okay, so now what will happen when the save student will be executed? Obviously this particular method will be called, and here inside this particular method we are binding our data, whatever we are getting in the parameter, we are fetching it, we are binding it, we are binding it with this object. Now we are saving this, but we are trying to send this object to our save student method. So if I'll do click here on the open implementation, it is going to go to the DAO method, and inside the DAO method, here is the method where we are going to write. So I'll say write the logic to store the student object into the database, right? So right now this particular object is right here. We are sending it from our controller, isn't it? This is our controller. This is our controller. Here we are doing a DAO call. We are saying save student, and we are passing in the student what we have captured from the user, and this is the student we are getting here. Now I will try to paste the data from this student. I'll say student dot get name. What is the name of the student? Give me that. Student dot get mobile, and also I'll also paste the student dot get country. Okay, now these are my data that I'll be capturing from this particular object, and obviously the name is going to be an string, the mobile is going to be a long, this country is going to be a string. So different types of data. So I want to store different types of data inside a single entity. So I'll be using an array, but here I'll be using an object array because the object array can store any type of data. So I'll say args or arguments. Okay, or I'll say SQL parameter. I can say something just like this. Okay, parameters. Cool. So why I've taken an object array here? Because I want to get a hold of the mobile. I want to get a hold of name, country, different types of data If you hover over here, this is going to return you long. If you hover over here, this is going to return you string. Okay, so all this data I want to store just right here. Okay, but why I'm storing it? Because this is going to be my SQL parameters, because right now I'm going to write a insert statement. So I'll write a SQL, so string SQL. I'll prepare a SQL just right here. My SQL is going to be insert into students. Students is my table name. If you remember, where is my database? Students is my table name, isn't it? My table name is students. So I will make sure to go to my Eclipse, and I'll say insert into students, and I want to insert the value to the name, mobile, comma, country. Okay, these are my columns. The ID I am not inserting. See, the ID I'm not writing here, ID, name, mobile, country. If you remember, in your database we have ID also, but the ID will be automatically generated, isn't it? So we only need to pass in the name, mobile, country, and we have to do a insert. So this is what I'm trying to do. Insert into students, name, mobile, country. These are the column name, and the value for this column name is going to be dynamic. So I'll write values, and these values are going to be dynamic. So I'll be writing question mark, comma, question mark, comma, question mark. Okay, so this is going to be my SQL statement. That's it. Okay, so right now this is going to be my insert query. I want to insert a record to my student table where the name and mobile and the country is going to be, it can be anything. Okay, so that data will be capturing from here. So right now I can just simply do JDBC template dot update. I'll be obviously inserting a record to my database. So obviously this is going to be a update statement. Why I'm writing update here? Because this is a DDL query or a DML query. Obviously it's a DML query. Insert is the DML query, and in JDBC template, if you want to deal with the DML query, we have to use update. I have told you very clearly about this in your JDBC course. So I'll just say here update, and I'll go for this particular method. So this is going to be my SQL, and the arguments are this. Okay, so right now what is going to happen? So this update method is going to run, and the update method will do what? It is going to execute this particular query, and here it is going to find the SQL parameters. Okay, the SQL parameters are this. Get name is going to be replaced by this, get mobile is going to be replaced by this, and get country is going to be replaced by this this question mark, right? So once the update is going to run, I'll just say sysout one record updated. Okay, something just like that. I'm just trying to print a, I'm just trying to log something here. So that's it. My save student method is ready. So if I have written everything correctly, obviously my data should be saved in my database. So right now here is the flow. If you see here, if I'll go to my notepad, so right now I am doing this. I have a controller. The controller is basically talking to the DAO, okay, and DAO is basically talking to the DB or database. Okay, so this is the pattern that I'm following right now. If you go back to the code again, this is your controller. This is your controller. See here, I'm inside your controller. Right now your controller is doing save student. So the controller is capturing the data from the user, and that data he is sending to the DAO layer. Okay, I'm doing a DAO call. So if I'll go to the open implementation, you can see I have reached inside the save student. See, where is it? It's inside the student DAO IMPL. Go up, it's inside the student DAO IMPL. So right now here inside the DAO method, I'm basically writing the actual logic to store the student to the database. And you know basically how to do that. We'll be using a method called update. We'll be passing in a SQL. This is going to be my insert query, and SQL parameters are going to be this, whatever we are sending from the controller. From here only we have the data. So this data we are capturing just right here, and we are putting it in order for the SQL parameter. Okay, make sure to put this data in order, because you are writing name, So this question mark is going to be name. Okay, then mobile, so this question mark is going to be replaced with whatever the data will come from mobile. Okay, so make sure that these things are in order. Perfect. Right now let me save everything. Let me go back to here. Let me go back, and maybe I will do a refresh and I'll try to save some data. Now this time I want to save let's say a record. Let's say Priya. Okay, I'll say Priya. Mobile number for Priya is something, country is UK, and I'll say submit, and it is saying data saved, and obviously it is logging something just right here. This logger is coming from my controller, isn't it? So this is the thing which is basically logged here, but this is not saved. This is not saved. Maybe my server has not restarted, because if you remember, if the data would have saved inside the save student, I also have written a logger, one record updated. I'm not seeing that in the console. So maybe the data didn't go to my database. So where is my database? So let me do this. Okay, Anu is there, but the data is not got inserted yet. This data Priya is not got inserted yet. Let me do one thing. Let me save the database. Let me stop the server. Let me do one thing. Let me start the server again, and I will see that whether this time it works actually fine or not. So my server has started. In my console there are no errors. Fine. I will go here. I'll do refresh, and let me write again. Priya, mobile number something, country I'll say India, and I'll do submit. So perfect, student saved. Well, there you go. Right now there is a log, Priya, mobile number this, country is this. I'm trying to log it inside my controller. So this is the log. If you remember, I'm trying to log my student object, and obviously inside the save student I also have one more logger which says one record updated, and it is saying one record updated. That means it has already finished this work. That means if I'll go back to my DB, if I'll do a refresh, Priya is there inside my DB. So you can see Priya got inserted. So one more record I want to insert. Let's say, let me go here. Let me say Jack, and mobile number is something, and the country is, let's say, US, and let me do submit, and you can see Jack is the record. I'm able to capture it in my controller, and one record got updated. So if I'll go back to if I'll go back to my DB, and if I'm going to click on this yellow bolt, you can see Jack record is there in my DB. So as of now, my insert is working really good, and I'm able to insert a record by using this particular form, and the data is going straight away to my database. So working good.